All right, today we're diving into something pretty profound. It's a blueprint, not for a building or a city, but for a massive societal shift, a whole new way of being. And the story is told through the eyes of a wise dragon and his map for a new world.
Now, listen to these words from a wise dragon named Zoran. They really set the stage for everything we're about to explore. This isn't a story about an end, you see. It's about a deep, powerful, and absolutely necessary rebirth.
So the way this whole transformation is explained is through a map, unfurled by this dragon for a seeker named Fletcher. It literally charts the course from a world we all knew to one that's just now starting to bloom. So let's start with where we've been.
For generations, our entire reality was built on this one simple but incredibly powerful idea, the idea of me. Just think about it for a second. So much of our society was constructed around the individual, the self, and as we're about to see, this single idea had huge consequences for all of us.
Zoran the dragon actually gives this old world a name. He calls it the Shadowland, and it was a realm defined not by connection or community, but by scarcity and fear. It was a place where we kind of forgot who we really were.
At the very heart of this old world was what Zoran calls survival mode. You know the feeling. That constant, frantic scramble for jobs, for money, for resources, always feeling like you had to compete. It wasn't just stressful, it literally fractured our communities and created this low-level hum of anxiety that was just always there.
And think about how this shaped our identity. When someone asked, "So, who are you?" what was the answer? So often it was a job title, right? I'm a lawyer, I'm a designer. This meant our sense of self was incredibly fragile, totally dependent on something outside of us, something that could be taken away in an instant.
And how did we measure success in the Shadowland? Oh, that was simple. More. More money, more power, more influence. But this constant drive to accumulate more, well, it almost always created huge inequalities and came at a massive cost to other people and to the planet itself.
So here's the crucial point, the real takeaway from all this. The entire system was built on a flawed premise. It was fundamentally unstable. A world built only on me, as the source material says, was a self-destructing mechanism. It was always going to unravel.
And unravel it did. Big time. A series of powerful events started to shake the very foundations of the Shadowland, kind of forcing humanity to wake up. So let's take a look at what those catalysts were.
Okay, so 4 major things really pushed this shift into high gear. First, there was what the source calls the Great Layoff, but it frames it as a divine extraction, freeing people from a system that just saw them as fuel. Of course, this immediately kicked off a massive identity crisis, which we'll get to in a sec. At the same time, the old policies and systems, they just started failing. They couldn't keep up. And then the AI revolution hit, and what seemed like a threat turned out to be a liberator, freeing up our minds from routine work to ask much deeper questions.
And this became the question. It echoed across the entire globe. When that professional identity was suddenly ripped away, what was left underneath? It was a painful question for sure, but it became the very fire needed to forge a new, more real sense of self.
But here's the beautiful part. Out of the rubble of that old world, the blueprint for a new one was revealed. Zoran calls this new state of being the Garden of We. It's not a place on a map. It's a new way of living, built on ancient truths we had just forgotten about.
Okay, this slide right here really lays it all out, side by side. On the left, you've got the Shadowland of Me, and on the right, the Garden of We. Just look at the shift. The mindset goes from survival and competition to abundance and collaboration. Our identity is no longer I am my profession, but I am a unique piece of a giant universal puzzle. Success is no longer about accumulating stuff, it's about the flow of connection. And society itself moves from being just a bunch of separate individuals to a state of true interconnected wholeness.
A cornerstone of this new way of living is this amazing concept from Japan called Ikigai. It literally means a reason for being. It's not about just training for a job anymore. It's about that personal quest to find the sweet spot where what you love, what the world needs, and what you're good at all come together. It's about living a life that is truly purposeful.
And if Ikigai is a cornerstone, then the very heartbeat of this new society is the ancient African philosophy of Ubuntu. It's this profound, beautiful understanding that I am because we are. My humanity is tied to your humanity. My well-being is connected to your well-being. We are not separate islands. We are all part of one interconnected whole.
And you know, This leads to a complete, radical redefinition of value. In the Garden of We, the ultimate currency isn't money or data. It's what Zoran calls the thread of love. Success is actually measured by the flow of compassion, empathy, and real, genuine connection that we create in the world.
Okay, so we've seen the map, right? We get the theory. But understanding the blueprint is one thing. Actually walking the path, well, that's the real journey. The Source gives us a set of practices, or dragon trials, to help us start living this new blueprint in our own lives.
And here are 4 simple but incredibly powerful ways to start. You can begin an Ikigai journal to explore what truly lights you up. You can practice Ubuntu observation, just consciously noticing how your actions affect others. You could try a jewel within meditation to connect with that core part of you, beyond all the external labels. Or you can start intentionally tracing that thread of love by doing small, kind things for others. These are real, practical steps to start building this new world, one person at a time.
And so we end with Zoran's final piece of wisdom, which really brings it all home. This isn't just about changing economics or politics. It's a fundamental shift in our consciousness. It's the idea that by letting go of our obsession with the individual me, we finally create the space for a connected, compassionate, and truly thriving we to emerge. A world woven together by the thread of love.